Tonight we step softly into the warm dark of an older Earth, where footsteps are lighter and the planet's breath is slow and deep. Take a long, gentle inhale and an even longer exhale. If these quiet journeys soothe you, you can leave a like and subscribe so this path is always within reach. We begin with an image that often fills our minds: towering giants moving across vast plains. And yet, many dinosaurs are small, some no bigger than a household cat, sharing the same world as the great ones. The Mesozoic is not a single note of thunder, but a whole melody of sizes and shapes. A chorus where the tiny and the immense live side by side, without hurry. The word dinosaur once meant terrible lizard, but these animals are not lizards. They belong to their own branch of ancient archosaurs, set apart by the way their hips carry the body above the legs, by how they balance tail and torso, by small details that shift the whole posture of life. We hold that picture in our hands like a smooth stone, turning it until it feels familiar and calm. The Mesozoic stretches across 3 long chapters: Triassic, Jurassic, and Cretaceous. Between those names flow tens of millions of years, so much time that mountains rise and wear down, seas enter and leave plains, forests appear and change their leaves. We stand at the edge of this river and listen to it move, not in noise, but in the steady hush of distance. Breathe in slowly and feel your shoulders grow heavy against the bed. At the start, dinosaurs are light and quick, mostly on 2 legs, bodies built for balance and surprise. They do not rush to become giants. They wander into empty places in nature's map, taking what the world offers, leaving new tracks for others to follow. Over many generations, they try on new lives the way wind tries different paths around hills. The pace is patient and the result is variety rather than hurry. Many of the meat-eaters, the theropods, carry feathers. Sometimes the feathers are soft and downy, more like warm breath than armor. They are not yet for flight. They hold heat close, keep young safe, and turn bodies into quiet flags for display. From these simple strands, future wings will grow and the sky will gather them up. Birds are their living kin, and when a bird lifts from a branch today, an ancient story rises with it. Feathers first serve the everyday needs of warmth and communication. Later, they widen and stiffen, edge by edge, until air itself becomes a surface to lean on. It is not a sudden leap, but a soft staircase of changes, each one small enough to feel natural, each one a step toward the open light above trees and lagoons. While you breathe, imagine those steps like ripples on water, spreading outward without a splash. Dinosaurs are not just cold, sprawling reptiles. Their bodies often look closer to birds, hollowed bones that make the skeleton lighter, air spaces that may help with breathing and cooling, chests built for steady work. Research suggests that some species keep a warmer inner climate, especially the smaller hunters and the quick runners. The lines between cold and warm are not walls here. They are gentle gradients like shade turning into sun. In the fine lines of a feather's print and in the shape of a lightweight bone, we read hints of faster lives. The rhythms of muscle and breath feel lively, the daily cycles active rather than drowsy. Some species may use a mixed strategy, warming when they need to move and saving energy when they can afford to rest. Our own breathing follows that idea now. In for a quiet count of 4, out for a soft count of 6. Life in the Mesozoic moves to the pulse of monsoons and dry spells. Rains come and paint the land in green, then fade, leaving troughs of dust and shallow pools that mirror a pale sky. Dinosaurs, like today's herds, follow water and tender shoots, walking old paths to new growth. On the ground behind them, the prints dry and harden, and sometimes the first storm of a new season turns them to stone. Some feathered hunters wear patterns that once held color. Tiny bodies inside the feathers, called pigment carriers, suggest dark patches and rusty browns, banding and speckles that break up a body's outline. In low light, these coats help them blend with the leaf litter and the edges of fern clumps. Color here is not a shout, but a whisper, useful at dawn and dusk. Large eyes in some night hunters tell a quiet tale of evening work. Twilight gives cover and the air cools and sounds travel farther. In that half-light, steps are softer and the world feels closer to the skin. Between day and night, these animals find their hour, unhurried and precise, like a hand reaching for a familiar cup. In nests, stone keeps the shape of care. We see circles of eggs, sometimes in neat rings, sometimes in clusters shaped by the parent's body. Over them, in a few rare scenes, the outline of an adult spreads wide, as if warming, as if sheltering, as if waiting for a tap from within. Parental care may not be universal, but when it appears, it is gentle and sure, a steady fire in a world of open sky. The world of dinosaurs is not just bodies and bones, it is also plant breath and insect music. Ferns lean over stream edges, cycads hold stiff crowns of leaves. Early flowering plants experiment with shape and scent. The air hums, not loudly but constantly, and the ground gives a cool answer to each footfall. Between all of this, small rivers work without rush, a patient stitching of wet into dry. We remember again that many dinosaurs are not large. Some fit on a fallen branch, some weigh less than a loaf of bread. This is the quiet abundance behind the famous giants, a low murmur of life that fills the gaps and keeps the story going when the stage looks empty. Relax your jaw and let your tongue rest. The body knows how to be small and safe. The name dinosaur carries an old misunderstanding, but we keep it with care like a well-used nickname. The truth is softer, not monsters but animals, solving daily problems with bodies shaped for their time. Hips aligned for upright walking, tails held like beams for balance, hands and feet redesigned as tasks change. In every adjustment, a practical grace. The 3 chapters of the Mesozoic are long and calm from our point of view. Triassic sets the stage, Jurassic expands the cast, Cretaceous brings in new plants and spreads the map. Seas rise and fall, and climates lean warmer or cooler without abrupt jumps most of the time. Through it all, life does what it often does. It tries many small paths and keeps the ones that work. Early dinosaurs stand light on their toes like runners on a track. They are not yet armored, not yet horned, not yet burdened with giant necks or plated backs. They are balance and breath, long tails and narrow hips, heads that turn quickly to watch for motion. Picture them pausing, listening, then vanishing into low brush as if they were never there. Feathers return because they matter. Soft down wraps nestlings, sleek filaments crest adult heads and arms, a subtle show in the morning sun. Displays may be modest, a tilt of the body, a ripple of color, a hush that says enough without a shout. Warmth is the first gift. Flight is a later poem. Bodies that remind us of birds appear in many details. Bones with air inside, not fragile, but strong for their weight. Breathing that may pass air through the lungs in smooth one-way streams, keeping it fresh, keeping it cool. Muscles that hold posture with less effort. The whole design feels tuned for movement that lasts. In fossils, some studies find signs of warm blood in parts of the family tree. Not a single rule, but a range. Some large animals hold warmth simply because they are large. Some small hunters burn fuel faster to stay sharp at night. The line we draw between cold and warm is a tool, not a law. Between those ideas sits a wide, livable middle. The seasons rise and fall. Monsoon rains flood low basins and fill oxbows. Then sun returns and leaves a map of cracked mud. In those cracks, footprints remain, and sometimes a later flood fills them in with finer sand, preserving them like pressed leaves. Each step recorded without intention, each path a sentence we can still read. Herds move like weather fronts across grassless plains of cycads and horsetails. Young keep to the center. Older animals watch the edges, and everyone listens for the low call that means turn. Nights on the move are quiet except for distant insects and the soft drum of feet. In and out, the breath stays even, the body heavy and safe. Pigment shapes and fossil feathers hint at tones we can name without seeing. Coal black, deep rust, smoke gray, a pale sand along the belly. Patterns break up silhouettes and hide joints and seams. For hunters, this is patience made visible. For those who must hide, it is comfort. Color helps without needing to be bright. Eyes and ears in some species seem tuned to low light and low sound. A rumble may travel farther than a high call, and dusk opens a longer corridor for hearing. Parents and young can stay in touch across distance with tones that feel like soft thunder. The world communicates in ways the air agrees to carry. In the calm of nests, circular arrangements of eggs speak of order. Spacing may help with air and warmth, and the shape of the nest keeps moisture where it should be. In a few places, the outline of a sitting adult lies over the clutch like an umbrella of life. Care is an old idea. It has many forms. The Mesozoic is a scent as much as a scene. Warm resin on bark, damp soil after afternoon rain, a faint mineral breath where a small river cuts a bank. We cannot visit, but the mind can walk there without noise, following a trail of simple images that do not ask for effort. Now the night becomes present again. You are here, breathing at an easy pace, while an ancient wind seems to pass through the room. Dinosaurs move in that wind with the same quiet purpose as deer at twilight and shorebirds at dawn. They eat, rest, watch, and raise their young, and the world continues its long, even exhale. Let the bed hold your weight a little more. Let the jaw unclench. Thoughts can drift like small feathered bodies settling on a branch, each finding a place and becoming still. If sleep comes soon, it will arrive as gently as a bird's shadow crossing a sunlit stone. We close this first doorway with a simple promise. When you return, we will pick up the thread in the same calm tone, follow it through bodies and lands and habits, and set it down again without knots. For now, the ancient wind is enough. You are safe. The story waits, and the night is kind. Tonight we move closer to the quiet engineering of life, to frames of bone lightened by air and guided by slow rhythms. Let the shoulders sink, the brow loosen, the breath lengthen. If these unhurried journeys bring you peace, you can softly leave a like and subscribe, so this path stays nearby whenever you need it. We begin with bone that is not solid like a stone, but laced with pockets that hold air. Many dinosaurs share with birds a system of air sacs that reaches into the skeleton, thinning heavy beams into strong shells. This lightness does not make them fragile. It spreads force like an arch and lets heat drift away from the core. Air becomes part of the body's structure, a quiet partner in balance and cooling. Long necks do not appear only by counting more bones. In many giants of the plant-eating kind, each neck vertebra stretches forward and backward, and within it lie delicate chambers linked to those air sacs. A single bone becomes a honeycomb of strength and emptiness, built to carry a head far from the heart without bowing. When a neck rises over a stand of conifers, it does so with grace rather than strain. Sliced bones tell time in rings. Under a lens, bands of denser tissue alternate with lighter zones, like seasons written in ivory. Narrow rings often mark lean years or colder stretches. Wider rings hint at abundance. The body writes what the world gives, and the message remains long after flesh is gone. Growth is rarely a straight line. Many species grow quickly through a short youth, reaching a sturdy size in only a handful of years, then slow into a long plateau of maintenance. The early rush may help young animals leave the most vulnerable sizes behind, while the later calm lets skeletons thicken and joints settle. It is the patient rhythm of trees and tides, rise and rest, rise and rest. Warmth in dinosaurs is not a single rule. Some likely keep high inner heat most of the time. Others lean on the sun when it helps, and many combine strategies that shift with size, food, and weather. Small hunters in cool nights may burn energy to stay sharp. Heavy plant eaters may hold warmth simply because of their mass. Between cold and hot runs a wide, livable middle, and life often chooses the middle. Gigantic bodies become slow stoves. Even without a racing metabolism, big frames lose heat slowly and carry yesterday's warmth into the evening. In a mild night, a giant can stand quiet and still be warmer than the air that slides past its skin. Size here is a blanket the animal weaves by growing. Horns, plates, and frills are not only shields. Fine grooves on their surfaces show paths for blood, and that blood can carry heat to the wind or keep a surface warm for display. When a row of plates on a back meets a breeze, they may shed excess warmth like open windows. When a frill flushes, it might send a colored message across a meadow at dusk. I am here, I am strong, I am calm. Mouths match plants the way tools match tasks. Duck-billed plant eaters carry broad beaks for clipping ferns and pond reeds, then pass food to deep batteries of teeth that grind without hurry. The teeth wear down in layers and are replaced from underneath, so the mill keeps turning for years. Each bite is a small, steady harvest from a world of tough fiber. Arms change as needs change. In many meat eaters, the forelimbs shorten over time, yet claws stay stout and hooked. They may help hold a struggling prey, brace the body while rising, or anchor a grip on uneven ground. Even when small, a pair of strong hooks is a useful pair of anchors. A tail is both counterweight and quiet storehouse of energy. While the body runs, the tail swings like a long metronome, keeping the center of mass over the feet and smoothing each step. Tendons along its length can store spring and return it with the next stride, saving effort the way a bow returns its bend. In stillness, the same tail becomes a patient prop against a slope or a shield for the nest. Footprints keep secrets that bodies alone cannot tell. The spacing of steps, the depth of the heel, the angle of the toes all whisper speed, weight, and mood. A wide, steady trackway with even distances suggests calm travel. Short, clustered impressions near a riverbank could mean hesitation or play. A long path across a mudflat is a line of thought written in soft clay. Let the breath slow until it feels like a tide. We can breathe in for a quiet count of 4 and out for a softer count of 6. In that rhythm, imagine air moving through the chest of an ancient animal, not just in and out, but along a loop. In birds, and perhaps in many dinosaurs, air flows in one direction through parts of the lung, like wind through organ pipes, keeping every breath fresh. Pneumatic bones in many meat eaters reveal the bridge to birds. Air sacs reach into the neck, the ribs, and even the backbone, turning heavy cylinders into light, resilient struts. The result is a skeleton that resists bending and twisting without carrying unnecessary mass. Silence is to music what air is to these bones, the space that lets structure do its work. Necks lengthen not only to reach higher leaves, but to widen the circle of feeding without moving the heavy bulk beneath. By sweeping the head in careful arcs, a giant can harvest a wide patch while the feet remain still. Energy stays in the muscles rather than in constant steps, and wear on the ground is light. It is efficient in a way that feels gentle and complete. The chest must balance power with breath. In many species, ribs overlap and connect to sturdy bars that keep the body cavity stable while muscles pull on limbs and tail. This creates a firm chamber around soft organs and may help air move smoothly, even when the rest of the body is working. Support and softness share the same space without conflict. Hearts and vessels leave only hints, yet those hints add up. Channels in bone show where major arteries and veins must run. The size of those channels suggests how much blood once flowed. Large, active animals need strong circulation to carry oxygen and remove heat. The story is not full, but the clues point toward capable pumps and busy highways inside. Skin carries records of life on the surface. In some plant eaters, scales form pebbled armor with larger plates here and there, and in a few, small patches of filament or simple fuzz may soften the outline. In many meat eaters, feathers range from down to simple veins, lying along the arms and tail like quiet streamers. A coat is never only decoration. It shapes warmth, water, and touch. Young animals are often built for speed and growth. Limb ends stay open for longer so bones can lengthen. Joints look slightly different to allow for change, and the skull may be rounded where an adult's is long. Adolescence is a second design phase the body travels through while still staying useful every day. The blueprint is flexible on purpose. Teeth speak the language of food. Blade-shaped teeth slice. Peg-like teeth nip. Wide, many-ridged teeth grind. Some mouths mix shapes along the jaw, setting up a sequence of actions as the jaw closes. Even when enamel is worn, dentine layers can keep a cutting edge, the way a well-used tool keeps doing its work. Feet meet the world in a few simple ways. Many meat eaters stand on 3 main toes with a raised inner toe that becomes a spur. Plant eaters often spread weight across broader padded digits or even onto a semicircle of fused bones like a hoof. The contact patch reveals speed, balance, and ground softness. Each step is a measured conversation with Earth. Tendons harden in life and fossilize as pale ribbons of stone. On the tails of some plant eaters, long tendons stiffen segments into a gentle beam, helping to hold the tail level or wield it like a careful lever. Along the spine, other tendons help store elastic energy, so a step's landing gives a little gift to the next push. The body recycles its own motion in small, thrifty loops. Thermoregulation uses any surface that can trade heat with air. Thin areas of skin over blood-rich places like the edges of crests, or the sails on some backs may flush when the air is cool and pale when it is hot. Shade, water, and wind join the toolkit. A slow turn in a breeze can be as effective as a sprint to a pond. Ears and inner balance organs help heads stay level while bodies move. A steady gaze keeps the world from smearing when a hunter runs or when a tall grazer swings its neck. The loops of the inner ear, hidden deep in the skull, tell us how agile an animal might be, how quick a head turn feels natural. Quiet coordination begins far from muscle and bone. Muscles anchor to ridges and pits on the skeleton, and those marks reveal which motions matter most. A deep scar near a shoulder hints at strong forelimb retraction. A long flange on a hip suggests powerful strides. Even a small crest on the skull can mean a broad sheet of jaw muscle and a bite that does slow, determined work. Form follows need, and need writes itself in bone. Now let your breath settle again. Inhale softly and let the ribs widen a little. Exhale and feel the weight of the body sink into the mattress. Imagine the slow wave of air through a chest built for steady travel. the whisper of blood along hidden roots, the quiet of bones that are strong because they are light. Nothing hurries and everything functions. We close with a simple sense of safety. Bodies in the deep past solve their problems with patience, using air to lighten bone, using size to hold warmth, using shape to move without waste. You can take the same lesson into the night. Less effort, more flow. The room is calm, the bed is sure, and the breath is the only clock that matters. When sleep arrives, it can settle over you like a long tail balancing the final step, easing you into stillness without a sound. We drift onward and the ground changes beneath our feet as gently as slides in the dark. Let the body grow heavier against the mattress while the mind moves more slowly, like a quiet river at dusk. If you like these unhurried journeys, you can softly leave a like and subscribe, so this path is easy to find whenever night arrives. We begin in forests of the Jurassic, where tall conifers lift layered crowns toward a blue that carries almost no winter bite. Ferns and horsetails make green carpets under trunks as broad as doorways. By the Cretaceous, flowering plants spread across wide plains. Small blossoms at first, then shrubs and trees that reshape the menu of entire herds. Between those eras flow tens of millions of years, and yet we pass through them the way a breeze moves across a room. Close to the heart of ancient continents, seasons often swing more boldly. Long, warm stretches invite growth, and then drier months press the land into stillness. Far toward the poles, daylight can linger for many hours in summer and fade to drawn-out twilight in winter. Fossils from high latitudes suggest some dinosaurs endure gentle chills and long nights, not by fleeing but by adapting to the rhythm of pale polar days. Take a slow breath in and an even longer breath out. Imagine the light softening through tall trees, then widening over an open plain. We are not in a rush. The landscape turns pages for us, and we read in silence. Deserts are not empty pages. A single storm can bury a small animal and preserve a full skeleton under wind-laid sand. Over time, the dunes drift, then harden into stone that remembers the shape of a spine, the arc of a jaw, the bend in a toe. Among the dunes, oases gather life, and tracks crisscross wet edges until the mud records a day of wandering with almost perfect care. Floodplains are wide notebooks of clay. When a river overflows, it spreads a thin film across its banks, and within that layer, a footprint or a leaf lays flat and waits. Years stack as silt and mud, then compress into rock, and a trackway emerges like a paragraph of motion, steady strides, a pause, a turn. Sometimes an entire herd passes, and the clay keeps the chorus of their steps. Where rivers meet the sea, lagoons breathe in salt and fresh in slow exchange. These lowlands gather both plant-eaters and hunters drawn by water, fish, and the shade of shoreline trees. The air may carry the slight tang of sulfur where marsh plants rot and renew. Boundaries blur in these places, and a single horizon can hold reptilian swimmers, winged fishers, and landwalkers sharing a common edge. Coastal waters host neighbors rather than dinosaurs themselves. Sea reptiles, not dinosaurs, cruise through warm shelves, while above the waves, pterosaurs glide downwind of sea breeze. On the beach, the first birds pick through stranded wrack between the footprints of small meat-eaters. One world touches another at the line of foam. Across entire continents, shallow inland seas come and go. Their beds leave light-colored layers thick with shells and the mineral traces of calm, warm water. In those sediments, the land's life sometimes interrupts. A nest laid near a shore that later sank. A bone washed in from a river, a twig pressed into a bed of fine lime. Stone remembers not only waves, but also quiet breezes over nearby grass. Islands tell a different story. Where resources run thin and predators are few, Bodies sometimes grow smaller and lighter across generations. Limbs shorten, steps become careful, and animals move with the hush of those who spend energy like coins. These gentle shifts do not happen in a season. They play out over long threads of time that island winds patiently hold. Now let the shoulders soften and the jaw unclench. The breath moves the way a tide enters a bay, slow in, slower out. With each cycle, we can picture a herd moving from low plain to higher ground as a dry season deepens, then returning when the grass greens again. Migration is a sleepwalking ribbon, miles long, stitched across the map year after year. In some places, tracks stretch for kilometers when measured on a modern map, though we keep those distances in words rather than numbers here. Long chains of prints cross ancient river mouths and arc around vanished hills. The spacing between steps widens where the ground was firm and closes on soft patches, as if the herd nursed tired ankles and chose caution. These paths show purpose without rush. Pollen rests between grains of sand and dust as a calendar that never tears. Under a microscope, shapes of ancient pollen grains reveal what plants were blooming when a layer formed. As flowering plants spread, the pollens diversify like a quiet fireworks display of forms. We do not need the jargon. It is enough to know that the wind and the bees kept time and left the clock for us to read. Lakes in rift valleys hold paper-thin bands of silt that mirror the seasons. A dark band for calmer, colder months, a pale band for warm, active waters. A dragonfly lands, a fish rises, a small dinosaur kneels at the edge and drinks. If you listen, you can hear the soft slap of water on mud, steady enough to slow your own heart. Tectonic uplifts raise hills, and erosion lays them down again. Dinosaur bones sometimes settle in alluvial fans at the base of new slopes, carried by short, violent floods and then tucked into blankets of gravel. As the mountain front marches forward over geologic time, old graves rise toward the daylight we know. The land rearranges the library, but it does not throw away the books. Along coasts where the sea level shifts gently up and down through long cycles, the rocks alternate sand, silt, and lime, each layer a line in a tide's journal. Mangrove-like plants take root, die back, and return when the water allows, leaving mats that survive as thin black seams. Tiny crusts of salt and mud crack in polygon patterns and heal with the next flood. The shoreline hums in place even while moving a little year by year. Sometimes a single quarry holds neighbors that never met. A jaw from one era lies a short walk from a limb that is millions of years younger. The ground folds time the way a blanket folds corners to meet, and a careful eye can sort the layers even when they sit close. We look down and see a collage that patience can untangle. Breathe in for the count of 4, breathe out for the count of 6. Feel how your weight settles deeper into the bed as if you were sediment in a quiet basin. Sleep, like geology, is a slow depositor. Volcanic plains have their own chapters. Fresh ash settles over herds, sometimes gently like snow, sometimes in rushes that blanket everything with a hot, fine coat. Later rains carry ash into low places where it becomes clay that holds bones with slow devotion. Between eruptions, grasses and small shrubs return, and life writes new lines over the gray. River deltas braid and unbraid their channels over centuries. As one channel silts shut, another cuts through farther down, and animals learn new crossings. Nesting grounds shift a little, then return, guided by the safety of shallow water and the height of sandbars. A delta is patient geometry made by mud and time. In highlands, the air thins and evenings cool. Short-bodied plant eaters graze on tough, low vegetation, and hunters pick shadowed trails along ridges. Nights in these places likely bring clear stars and a breath that condenses briefly against feathered skin. We can sense that coolness now, a slight hush at the edge of the blanket. Caves and overhangs are rare voices in the record, but where they appear, they hold microclimates and small communities. Bats arrive much later in Earth's history, yet earlier cracks shelter insects and lizards that share the ground with passing dinosaurs. Dripping water leaves tiny mineral skins that trap seeds and plant fragments. Even the darkness writes. Coastal dunes roll like sleeping whales. When plants root and hold a ridge in place, a stable sand body forms with quiet swales between crests. Small hunters follow these low corridors to move out of wind and into scent trails. On some mornings long ago, dew may bead on early flowers while a feathered hunter brushes past. Estuaries gather nutrients like a generous bowl. Juvenile fish crowd the reeds. Birds patrol the shallows, and land animals descend to drink where fresh meets brine. In such places, bones rarely last on the surface, yet the mud below is a vault. When storms sweep in, those vaults close tight. Now draw breath as if it were a gentle tide returning. Let the exhale lengthen and carry weight out of the shoulders, down through the ribs, into the mattress. The tour continues, but the pace stays slow. Savannas of the Cretaceous look different from modern grasslands because true grasses are only beginning their rise. Low-flowering plants, cycads, and conifers still lead, but the pattern of open space and scattered shade is familiar. Herds move in arcs between patches of tender growth, and small hunters trace the edges, never too far, never too close. High-latitude forests spend many months with the sun sliding low. Evidence suggests some dinosaurs adjust to dim light with large eyes or seasonal habits, perhaps slowing activity during the darkest span, then feeding furiously when daylight returns. The idea is not a hard rule, just a quiet hint drawn from bones and rings and sediments. Even so, it brings the distant poles a little closer. Karst landscapes riddled with sinkholes and springs attract life as water finds its way through stone. Clear pools hold invertebrates and small fish, while their edges give drink to passing herds. When a roof collapses, a new basin forms that may trap leaves and bones and hold them safe from scavengers. The ground breathes here, and the record is kind. Red beds tell of oxidized soils under warm, seasonally dry skies. In these layers, we often find burrows, nests, and the marks of raindrops that spattered and then baked. A storm arrives, scatters a pattern of dots, and the next dry spell hardens the message. It is simple and beautiful, like the steady beat of your breath. We end where hills slope into quiet marshes under a late sun. The map of dinosaur life is not a single scene, but a quilt of estuaries, deserts, floodplains, islands, high forests, and polar flats, each with its own weather and its own pace. Through all of them run the same needs: water, food, shelter, and safe paths for young to follow. You can let that simplicity settle over you now. The room is safe, the night is mild, and the breath is steady. Landscapes change and creatures adapt, but the rhythm beneath is constant and calm. If sleep comes in the next few moments, let it arrive the way a quiet river overflows and lays down a soft layer of silt, covering the day with something cool and even. We will pick up the trail again another night, and the land will be ready to welcome you back. We lean closer to the ground and listen for other footsteps. The dinosaur world is not a solo, but a calm orchestra where many instruments enter and fade, each in its own soft measure. Take a slow breath in, longer breath out. And if these quiet journeys feel good at night, you can gently leave a like and subscribe, so this path stays easy to find when sleep approaches. Around the feet of giants, small warm bodies move like sparks under leaf shade. Mammals share this world, often nocturnal, often cautious, with fur that holds heat and whiskers that read the air. Many are insect eaters, some nibble seeds, and a few test the edges of larger meals. They weave through roots and burrows, living close to the soil where safety is measured in heartbeats and hidden doors. Over open water, cousins of dinosaurs claim the sky in another way. Pterosaurs are flying reptiles, not dinosaurs, but neighbors of the wind who master soaring and glide with long fingers stretched into membranes. Some skim fish from lagoons at dawn, others stalk shorelines for crabs and small prey. Their bones are light, their steps are brief, and their shadow passes over sand like a quiet cloud. Beneath the surface, the world divides again. Long-necked swimmers with wide flippers cruise through calm seas, while powerful marine hunters patrol deeper blue. These are not dinosaurs, but marine reptiles shaped for water with bodies that press smooth against the current. The horizon holds them all at once. Landwalkers on the beach, winged gliders above, and silent bodies sliding between shafts of light below. Insects write another chapter with delicate legs and steady flight. As flowering plants spread in later ages of the dinosaur story, pollinators move from bloom to bloom, and the menu of plant eaters expands. Petals open and close with light and moisture, and glistening grains of pollen ride away on beetles, flies, and early bees. With each visit, seeds gain a better chance, and herds find fresh leaves where once there were only tough fronds. Along warm rivers, broad-bodied reptiles settle into still pools. Crocodile kin, ancient relatives within the wider archosaur family, wait with eyes just above the surface. Their bodies are shaped like the water itself, a form that hardly changes because it works quietly and well. When the dry months sharpen thirst, paths of plant eaters and ambush points of hunters meet at the same bank, and the mud keeps careful record. Plants are not passive scenery. Leaves can be stiff with fibers or bitter with simple chemicals that discourage a second bite. Over time, plant eaters answer with new teeth, broader jaws, and complex grinding surfaces that turn rough food into steady fuel. It is not combat so much as conversation, a back and forth that bends bodies and habits until both sides live in a new balance. Let the breath slow again. In through the nose, out through the mouth, as even as a tide over sandbars. The pattern of the ancient valley is simple. Move, feed, rest, move again when the season asks. On sandy shores, turtles choose night, hauling heavy shells up the beach to lay eggs above the reach of waves. The curve of a flipper marks the slope, the scoop of a hind limb covers the nest. Some nights, small meat eaters follow the scent to take a portion of the clutch. The circle turns without hurry. Many eggs become meals, enough become hatchlings, and the beach keeps its promise year after year. Where life ends, other lives begin. Colonies of insects, worms, and small crustaceans clean fallen bodies with precision. Beetles explore, larvae consume, and the last fibers yield to fungi and microbes. Elements return to water and soil, and a patch of ground grows richer for a while, drawing new plants and the animals that need them. Nothing is wasted. The ledger balances in quiet ink. High in the canopy or running across open ground, early birds join the chorus by the late Cretaceous. Their bones are hollow and light, their feathers arranged for flight and warmth. Some pluck insects flushed by larger feet, some snap tiny fish from shallows, and some rest in low branches where night feels close and safe. Wings beat in the dawn, and the air remembers them. Footprints cross and overlap like soft-spoken greetings. In certain layers, a path of three-toed prints from a small hunter angles toward a set of round, broad impressions from a plant eater the size of a pony. The hunter veers before the two trails meet, as if a faint scent or a shift of wind carried a message. We do not need to dramatize it. A turn is enough, and the mud tells it well. At river margins, the smallest neighbors leave their letters beside the large. Tiny hand-like tracks of mammals appear between much wider steps of a two-legged dinosaur. This is not always a hunt. Often it is simple overlap at a favored bend. The small creature drinks in the calm shadow of a reed, then vanishes into a burrow while heavy toes press by, unbothered and unaware. Take a smooth breath in for 4 counts and a longer breath out for 6. Feel the shoulders sink a little. The web of connections is not complex here. It is an honest loop of food, water, shelter, and timing. Lakes draw amphibians that climb onto wet banks at night. Frogs call, salamanders slide under decaying leaves, and their eggs cling as clear beads to stems and stones. These animals feed insects to mammals and small reptiles and are themselves food for fish and birds. The lake is a slow exchange where mouths and roots, fins and toes all trade energy with care. Burrows stitch the landscape together below our feet. Mammals dig to stay warm, to hide, and to store food. Small reptiles follow old tunnels to hunt. Even some dinosaurs may rest near these cool passages during the heat of day. Roots invade from above, bringing sugar and oxygen into the dark. The ground is busy in ways our eyes do not see, and this steady labor keeps the surface alive. On open flats, swarms of termites and ants farm fungi or build small towers of soil where moisture holds. Their work breaks down wood and leaf, returning minerals to the thin skin of the earth. In the wake of herds, dung beetles roll and bury pellets, a quiet task that feeds larvae and fertilizes patches of ground. Evidence suggests such cycles are already underway by later times in the Mesozoic, and the pattern endures because it is useful to all. Seed travelers help plants explore new ground. Fruits are eaten by plant eaters, then dropped elsewhere with a ready package of nutrients. Some seeds ride on feathers or fur, hooked by tiny spines, then let go after a few hours of walking. Over seasons, valleys and low hills change color as new plants take root along paths well worn by feet of many sizes. Even the wind becomes a partner when fluff and wings carry seeds across a floodplain. In brackish channels, fish school by size, and young move upriver to avoid the larger mouths near the estuary. Wading pterosaurs and birds probe the shallows, while crocodile kin wait in deeper bends. When water drops in the dry season, stranded pools condense the web, and the banks grow busy at dusk. A heron-like shape lifts, a long snout slides, ripples fold back into stillness. Sometimes neighbors share more than space. They share signals. A sudden rustle sets birds to lift and mammals to freeze. Herds raise heads, flick ears, and face the wind, their bodies reading the same message carried by sound and scent. After a moment, calm returns and feeding resumes, the warning stored for the next time it is needed. Now pause and notice your own senses resting. Vision softens, hearing widens, breath loosens. We are part of this web for a while, quietly watching without taking anything away. Fire enters some habitats the way a storm does, brief and changing. Lightning can burn dry leaves and open space for new growth without ending the forest. Afterwards, sprouts push through ash, and plant eaters arrive to taste tender shoots. Insects move in quickly, birds follow them, and the cycle turns another small circle. Shellfish and coiled swimmers mark the open sea beyond the beach. In deeper water live shelled drifters whose chambers track growth like a diary. Predators bite patterns into their shells, and those patterns become one more data point in stone. Even far from land, the record of neighbors and links continues in layers of quiet mud. Parasites and cleaners make a subtler economy. Small birds and perhaps small mammals may pick ticks from larger hide, while tiny crustaceans groom fish and marine reptiles in warm shallows. Where bodies press together for shade or safety, insects find skin and scales, and cleaning behaviors grow from need. The balance is not perfect, but often good enough. Overhead, swarms of delicate winged insects rise at dusk. Pterosaurs and birds sweep wide loops through them, while small mammals snatch single targets near hedges. This evening air is a moving feast that ties sky to ground. When the swarm settles, night sounds thin out, and everything rests a little deeper. Across seasons, migrations stitch distant places into one neighborhood. Herds leave trampled clearings that re-green with the first rains. Predators follow for a time, then peel away to tend young or use local cover more wisely. On return, the herds rediscover the same bends and ridges, as if guided by a map that lives in muscle and memory. Breathe in and picture a map of threads rather than borders. Every line connects water to mouth, leaf to tooth, light to feather, shadow to pause. The dinosaur world is held together by these steady ties, and each tie is stronger for being used often and gently. As night in our room deepens, let the body grow heavier and the thoughts drift like seeds on a soft breeze. The neighbors of that ancient time find water, share space, leave tracks, and vanish into burrow, branch, or wave. You are safe here, listening from the edge of the clearing. If sleep arrives now, let it do so quietly, the way a small mammal slips back into warm earth as stars take their places overhead. We settle into the quiet rhythm of their days, listening for small routines rather than thunder. Take a slow breath in and a longer breath out, letting the shoulders grow heavier against the pillow. If these night walks through deep time soothe you, you can gently leave a like and subscribe, so this calm path stays close when sleep returns tomorrow. We begin with company because many dinosaurs do not walk alone. Herd living often protects the smallest bodies and helps everyone find food and water more reliably. Tracks pressed one beside another show groups keeping an easy pace, adults on the outside, young in the safer middle. When danger passes in the distance, the herd relaxes together, the ground holding a soft record of clustered feet. Some voices carry in ways we still feel in our chest. Duck-billed plant eaters with hollow crests can turn breath into a low note that rolls over marsh and pine. The bones of the crest shape the sound the way a shell shapes the sea, and the call may serve as a gathering bell at dawn or a warning under clouds. We imagine the air trembling gently, like a drumhead touched by a fingertip. Horns and frills become quiet flags instead of weapons in many hours of the day. Horn-faced dinosaurs can tilt a wide collar toward morning light, the surface edged with blood vessels close to the skin. Color and pattern may signal maturity and mood without a sound, the way a bird shows its throat patch or a lizard lifts a crest. A turn of the head becomes a sentence. A slow step closer becomes a paragraph. Small hunters move by shadow more than speed. Many do not sprint until the last moment. They advance with soft feet along reeds and low branches, letting reflections on water hide their outline. A pause, a shift, a measured breath, and then a short rush. Even when a hunt fails, the lesson of angles and wind stores itself in muscle for later. Nest care invites patience. Feathered arms can roof a circle of eggs against rain and midday glare, holding warmth the way a blanket holds a sleeping child. Adults turn the eggs with care and bring small food items when shells open, feeding nestlings and guarding them from stray feet. In quiet weather, the family rests with bodies touching, a ring of safety inside the larger herd. Great bodies face rivers differently than small ones. Long-necked giants choose shallow crossings, step by steady step, and let their legs set a slow rhythm for the group. Silt lifts in ribbons behind them, and settles as pale bars downstream, a soft map of the morning. On the far bank, the herd climbs, shakes off water and grazes, while sun and wind smooth the surface back to glass. Feathers change with the seasons. Many feathered dinosaurs likely molt, replacing worn filaments with new ones that shed rain more cleanly and insulate more evenly. During molt, colors can dull and outlines soften to match dusk grass and bark. Hiding grows easier in low light, and the body saves heat with less effort. Eggs carry their own palette. Some shells show pigments that range from gentle blues to warm browns and olive tints, colors that blend with sand, leaf litter, or gravel. In open nests on bare ground, this soft camouflage may reduce the chance of discovery in the long hours when adults must forage. Near shrubs or driftwood, the same shell seems to vanish into mottled shade. Breath meets bone in a thoughtful design. Noses and winding air passages can moisten and cool incoming air and recover heat from outgoing breath, especially in dry seasons. With each inhale, air grows kinder to the throat and lungs. With each exhale, the body wastes a little less warmth. We can mirror that now, breathing in for 4 counts, breathing out for 6, and letting the room feel warmer. Tails speak in gestures we can read even from stone. A raised tail can mean alert watchfulness. A low, relaxed tail can mean ease and safety, and a lashing tip can mark irritation at flies or rivals. Vertebrae and tendons support these positions, and trackways sometimes show a faint brush line when the tail drifts close to the ground. Even without sound, posture carries the message. Childhood has its games in every age. Near some nests, tiny footprints loop and double back, circling in bursts like coins skipped across a pond. The paths do not lead anywhere in particular. They sketch play, practice turns, and build coordination for a world that will soon require it. We picture quick steps, a stumble, a reset, then another try, and we smile in the dark. Grooming brings comfort and care. Many dinosaurs likely rub against tree trunks to scratch shedding skin or dislodge biting insects, leaving long vertical streaks that curl the bark. Pairs of animals may nibble each other's hard-to-reach spots with care, the way many birds preen. Afterward, rest comes easier, and the afternoon heat feels slower. Shade at midday is a shared relief. Herds drift into conifer stands where needles knit the light into cool patches. Insects buzz with a steady drone, and large bodies sink into half-sleep, chewing slowly or simply breathing. The forest holds them the way a porch holds a family on a long summer day. Some days ask for travel. When a known meadow browns with drought, the group begins to move before hunger grows sharp. They follow a shallow valley that holds water longest, step over dry channels, and arrive at fresh shoots that sprung from last week's light rain. The pace is patient, the order familiar, and the youngest learn the landmarks turn by turn. Foot care is part of daily life on rough ground. Animals choose softer margins of riverbeds, trample paths through tall grass, and avoid sharp scree when possible. Hoof-like toes or broad pads spread weight and keep the body steady. Mud cools the skin of ankles and lower legs, and a short roll in dust keeps insects from settling. Some mouths are built for fine work. Duck-billed plant-eaters crop leaves with a broad beak, then pass stems to deep batteries of teeth that grind with a sound like distant rain. Horn-faced grazers snip close to the ground and press tough plants between shearing surfaces built for fiber. Both methods turn sunlight fixed in leaves into steady energy under ribs and spine. Night does not empty the scene. Many animals shift their schedule toward dusk and dawn, where light is soft and heat less pressing. Large eyes and sensitive ears help them feed in near darkness, and a red glow of starlight on water becomes enough to find a path. Predators move then as well. but often paths simply cross and separate again without rush. Rain has its choreography. When the first drops tap leaves, heads lift. When the steady wash begins, bodies angle into it. Dust vanishes, feathers bead and roll, and hot ground lets go a mineral scent as old as the first soils. After the cloud passes, plant eaters return to tender tips, and fresh puddles and small animals drink from leaf cups before they spill. Heat invites other strategies. Open-mouthed breathing, slight wing or arm spreading to vent warm air from the body, and restful stillness during the hottest hour often do more than panic. Some animals stand over their own eggs or young to cast shade, rocking gently to let cooler air circulate. The day stretches and every creature spends energy with care. Courtship finds a lane between utility and art. Males of some species may stamp a simple beat, fan feathers, or sway a crest in a pattern that repeats across shallow water or open sand. Females watch in stillness, and when the rhythm pleases the species, pairs form and move away together. The show is brief and low, like a lullaby sung under breath. Burrows and platforms are home, with many doorways. Some small plant eaters dig shallow pits to escape cold night air or sudden wind. Others pile soft plants into bowl-shaped nests on raised ground to keep rain from pooling. A chosen site is used and repaired across seasons, and the area grows familiar, with paths to water, to shade, and to fruiting shrubs. Scavenging is not a story of failure. It is part of keeping the land clean. Even large hunters take a quiet meal when they find one, and small flocks or packs share in a loose order that avoids needless harm. Bones left behind feed beetles, and bones after beetles feed soil. The body returns to the field that fed it, and the cycle closes without ceremony. Senses guide choices in small ways that add up. Noses lift to sample wind for water, resin, and musk. Eyes scan shadow edges for the line that does not fit. Ears pick the difference between insect calls and footfall. The brain knits these threads into a map of now. We can follow that map for a moment, noticing our own room's soft hum, the weight of blankets, the smell of night air. Travelers keep time with the sky. Some herds move north after a green wave of new leaves, then fold back south as days shorten and nights cool. They rest at the same ridges and crossings each year, wearing familiar curves into the earth. Young learn the route as a song, verse by verse, and one day they lead it. Play spills into work and back again. Young predators chase each other's tails, practice pounces into grass, and learn gentle restraint so play does not break skin. Young plant eaters practice pushing with their growing horns and frills, testing balance and strength before the serious contests of adulthood. The field holds laughter without voices. The air holds dust that settles like glitter on hide and leaf. Cleaning up after meals matters too. Many animals wash their muzzles in streams or rub them in grass to keep scent low and flies away. Some pick grit from between teeth with twigs or scuff bark to dislodge scraps. A clean mouth chews better. A clean face draws fewer stings. Conflict, when it happens, often ends quickly. Displays and size settle most debates, and contact is short. A few thrusts, a turn away, a small chase, then pause and graze. The day does not fracture. The herd returns to its pattern with only a bit of dust hanging in the sun. As light fades, roosting and bedding show quiet care. Feathered bodies climb low branches or stand on sheltered logs. Larger herbivores fold legs beneath and tuck tails to shield their flanks from wind. The chosen spot faces open ground for a clear view. One or two heads remain raised for a time, then lower, then lift again in a slow watch. Now let your own breath match that watch, slow and even. In for 4, out for 6, with the jaw loose and the eyes soft. The scene grows dim, and the simple tasks of the day, find, taste, drink, groom, rest, tuck themselves into evening. Through these small habits, the age of dinosaurs becomes familiar rather than distant. It is a world of chores and naps, of weather and water, of teaching the young and saving energy when heat presses down. Nothing here is in a hurry, and yet everything moves forward. If sleep wants to arrive now, let it come like a herd, easing into shade, one body at a time. You are safe, you are warm, and the ground beneath you is steady. The ancient day has folded into the ancient night, and your night can fold around you in the same gentle way. We soften our gaze and let surprise arrive like a small bird on the windowsill. Take a slow breath in, then a longer breath out, and feel the mattress accept more of your weight. If these gentle walks through ancient forms help you settle, you can leave a quiet like and subscribe, so this path returns whenever you need it. We begin with bodies no larger than hands and forearms, light as leaves. Some small feathered hunters carry filaments along arms and legs, forming 4 broad surfaces that can catch air. In still evening air above a forest floor, they often do not fly so much as drift, choosing a branch below and away, trimming speed with tail and toes. We picture the hush of that glide, a slow exhale through needles and fern. Not far away, a giant with a sail on its back listens for the river. A long, narrow snout parts the water where fish gather, and broad feet press into wet sand. The tall spines along its vertebrae carry a membranous crest that may help with heat or display, and the body moves with an ease that suggests hours in shallows. Between reeds and sandbars, the giant becomes part of the channel's rhythm, patient and sure. Armored shapes work by another rule. Low, wide bodies wear a mosaic of plates and studs that turn sunlight to a dappled pattern. At the end of the tail, fused bone makes a heavy knob, not for wild swings in every moment, but for clear warnings and short, accurate strikes when danger comes too close. Most of the day passes in quiet grazing and careful steps, the armor saying no without needing a voice. Plates can also rise like a windowed wall above the spine. Along the back of a slow mover, tall, thin plates carry many blood vessels, suggesting that heat can be gathered or shed by turning broad surfaces toward or away from the sun. The silhouette alone may also speak to rivals or mates across a dusty field, a skyline of gentle triangles that blush warmer in morning light and cool in evening shade. Between the plates, the back sways and the tail traces a low arc behind. Necks reach up as if they were questions. Long-bodied plant eaters with slender teeth nip tender shoots far above the ground, but they also draw branches down to mouth level, with a twist of the jaw and a lean of the chest. Their teeth are shaped more like brushes than chisels, good for stripping leaves rather than crushing bark. As they feed, the necks move like cranes, quiet and precise, and the air vibrates only with breath. Some foreheads are thick as river stones. Dome-headed animals carry skull roofs swollen into smooth helmets that may withstand pushes and rubs rather than full-speed collisions. Side by side, 2 bodies can lean and jostle, testing balance, strength, and patience without shattering bone. When the moment passes, the pair returns to shrubs and seed heads, their footsteps settling the argument more gently than words. Names can mislead, and stories can be rewritten by a single posture in stone. Near low dunes, feathered, short-faced omnivores perch over rings of eggs with arms spread wide. Feathers form a living roof, protecting shells from rain and midday glare, while the parent adjusts position to share warmth evenly. The scene is simple and tender, and it replaces older guesses with a picture of care. Some instruments carry their own echo chamber. A long-crested plant eater lifts its head and exhales a note that travels like fog along a lakeshore. The shape of the crest can change the pitch and color of the call, so age, size, and perhaps family may be heard more than seen. Across reed beds and mudflats the herd answers, and the distance between bodies closes with each reply. Islands sculpt bodies the way wind sculpts dunes. Where food is limited and space is narrow, large plant eaters often shrink over many generations, trading mass for thrift and agility. Hooves print closer together, necks shorten a little. The appetite fits the field. The result is not a lesser form, but a careful one, tuned to edges and seasons. A famous hunter brings strength and sensitivity into the same skull. Heavy jaw bones carry thick teeth that can crush and tear, while the snout and palate include channels that likely hold nerves for smell and touch. Air moves through a maze of passages, and scent writes maps that the mind can follow even in darkness or wind. The body waits until the path is sure, then commits. Horns and collars meet behind a beak that works with quiet accuracy. A three-horned plant eater can crop tough stems and hold them between dental surfaces that shear, while cheeks may help keep the bite in place long enough for a steady grind. The frill above the neck serves as billboard and shield, and powerful neck muscles knit head and chest into a single working unit. We watch the mouth move, rhythmic and calm, like a loom. Let the face soften for a moment and the breath grow smoother. The variety itself becomes a cushion, small and large, light and armored, sleek and spined, all sharing the same air and rain. Claws sometimes grow longer than seems likely for a leaf eater. Tall, feathered bodies with pot-bellied torsos carry scythe-like hand claws that curve like moons. With these tools, branches can be drawn closer, bark can be stripped to reach tender cambium, and thorns can be kept at a distance. Steps are measured. The head sways. The appetite is for plants more than flesh. Relatives of early birds carry feathers that are not quite symmetrical at first, then become so as control of air improves. Asymmetry in a flight feather helps the wing create lift and steer, shaping the breeze into a surface strong enough to stand on for a heartbeat. Each feather is a page in a manual the body reads without words, adjusting angle and pressure in real time. When the glide ends, feet meet bark, and the cycle begins again. We return to miniatures for a breath. Tiny hunters hop between roots, catching insects with short darts and quick head turns. Their world fits inside a single fallen log and the space beneath a fern. Yet the design of their limbs and feathers hints at the same principles that lift larger bodies to the canopy edge. Smallness becomes another way to be complete. At the opposite scale, titans move with a grace that ignores their mass. Leg bones stand like pillars with slight curves for strength. Hips fit like carved joints in a bridge. The heart sends blood down long corridors of vessels, and the lungs move air through a lattice that keeps oxygen flowing even when the stride is slow. At each pause, the ground seems to settle, then rise again in time with the breath. Between such ends, middle sizes fill almost every niche. Some runners carry long shins and light feet built for distance. Others carry powerful thighs for short launches into brush. Beaks vary from wide rakes to narrow tweezers, and teeth follow suit. The land reads like a tool chest, and each occupant picks up its own shape and task. Color often stays quiet in stone, but sometimes it whispers through structure. In a few feathers, microscopic bodies that once held pigment survive as ghostly granules that can suggest a range from rust to black to gray. Patterns might break up outlines in shade or draw attention during display. We do not need to know the exact palette to feel how light would move across these bodies at dawn and dusk. spines and sails return us to water's edge. Along a tidal reach, a sail-backed predator cools in a breeze or warms in early sun, then slides into a channel to thrust its snout among schooling fish. The tail, more flexible than many land hunters, sweeps with force through tea-colored water. When the meal is done, the body rests in reeds where insects land and lift again, unbothered. Armor, too, has more than one style. Some bodies carry flat tiles like a road. Others carry keystoned, peaked plates with grooves that lead rain away. Shoulder spikes angle out like small branches, discouraging a close approach from the side. When the animal beds down, armor becomes roof and wall, and sleep arrives behind bone and hide. Back plates do double duty as art. Seen from a ridge, a line of tall plates gives the impression of sails in a harbor, each catching a different shade of the same wind. If blood warms within them, they glow. If blood cools, they pale. Even without color, the silhouette alone is enough to mark the species long after it has passed. Long necks find not only height, but reach. A plant eater can sweep a wide circle without moving its feet, gathering leaves from grasses, shrubs, and mid-level branches. This energy thrift matters on long days. Each small savings adds up to a night of steady heart and cooler skin. Domes invite touch again, but with purpose. Youngsters may press side to side to learn limits. Older individuals may trade weight and step away once the message lands. If head-on strikes occur, they likely remain brief, ending in small arcs rather than long bruising contests. Afterward, dust and pollen float on the air, and the field returns to stillness. Care around eggs appears in more than one lineage. Some parents rake soft sand into low banks to keep water from pooling, add plant matter that warms the clutch as it decays, and patrol a loose circle to discourage scavengers. Others sit and shade, turning eggs by feel with gentle claws. In both, the work is repetitive and kind. Long crests send notes into fog again, and we follow with our breathing. In for 4 counts, out for 6, steady as the low horn that a morning lake carries to its far shore. The body grows heavier, the thoughts grow lighter. Some giants shrink when resources demand it, and some small forms grow large when forests open into plains. The same bones lengthen or shorten, thicken or thin under the quiet pressure of place. Across thousands of generations, change becomes shape, and shape becomes habit. A famous hunter's nose closes our circle of senses. Warm, damp air carries trace chemicals from decaying wood, crushed fern, and distant bodies. Each thread of scent ties to a memory, a stream bend that yields fish after rain, a carcass left by flood on a gravel bar, a herd that moved at dusk and will likely bed near the hill with the split pine. The nose reads, the feet follow, horns and beaks bring us back to the ground. Bits of stem fall in little piles, seeds crack with soft clicks, the jaw moves like a pendulum. A cheek may hold the mouthful long enough for a better grind. Then the tongue moves it back and the body builds with what it takes in. The animal stands, breathes, and stands a little longer, as if listening to its own steadiness. Feathered hands with long claws lift one last bough toward the mouth. A few leaves disappear and the branch springs gently back. The animal steps away with care, leaving the plant to grow new tips where old ones were eaten. In this way, the forest and the feeders shape each other without hurry. Around all of them, birds will one day rise fully, carrying asymmetrical feathers that splice the air into lift and turn. The line between ground and branch, between branch and sky, blurs. What begins as a glide becomes a controlled descent, then a short powered hop, and finally a sustained loop across a clearing. Now let your own breath loop once more, easy and slow. In this quiet gallery, every body has a reason and a place, from palm-sized gliders to river-backed giants. Variety does not shout, it hums, and the hum is steady. If your eyes want to close, let them. You are safe, the pillow is sure, and the night is gentle. The ancient shapes keep watch without moving, and the room holds you the way an old forest holds a breeze. We sit with the quiet the way one sits with a steady tide. Inhale slowly, let the breath widen the ribs, and exhale a little longer, letting the shoulders settle. If these night readings soothe you, a soft like and a quiet subscribe, keep this bedside trail easy to find. We begin by opening the Book of Fossils and noticing it has many kinds of pages. Not only bones harden into memory, skin can leave its pebbled texture, feathers can print their veins, even the contents of a last meal can cast a delicate shadow in stone. Each imprint is a sentence, and together they form a chapter about bodies in motion, paused only long enough for minerals to take their place. We read slowly because every line was written over patient ages. Amber turns tree tears into lanterns. Within these golden droplets, feathers are trapped with their fine branching barbs intact, so closely preserved that tiny hooklets still lock one strand to another. We can see how the vein becomes a single smooth surface that grips air and sheds rain, not by magic, but by many small parts working as one. Between resin and light, a vanished forest keeps a whisper of its birds and small feathered neighbors. Sometimes color survives not as dye, but as structure. Minute bodies inside feathers called melanosomes often keep their shapes, which can hint at shades ranging from soot black to warm rust to soft gray, and in rare cases, a subtle iridescent sheen. We cannot repaint every animal with certainty, yet these microscopic clues let us imagine patterns that break outlines or signal to mates. The result is not a shouting palette, but a calm return of tones to a world we once pictured only in stone. Even what was left behind becomes a record. Coprolites, the fossilized remains of meals already eaten, harden into small capsules of evidence. Within them, we sometimes find fish scales, plant fibers, fragments of shells, or occasional bone shards, telling us who fed on what and where. It is an ordinary intimacy, like peeking into a pantry and knowing a household's habits without a single word. Footprints write the grammar of movement across tidal flats and river mud. A long stride tightens into short steps. A shallow toe drag deepens for a moment, as if the animal hesitated and turned its head. The path narrows, widens, then crosses another path at a slant that suggests awareness and adjustment. We do not see a pose, we see a decision unfolding and then another. Nests bring time into circles. In some places, ringed scrapes in the ground hold clusters of eggs, and between one layer and the next, a fine sheet of dust or pollen has settled like a blanket. Those thin films tell us a season passed. Then another set of eggs was laid, patient as the turning of a calendar. Life repeats itself with quiet faith, even when the pages will not be read for millions of years. Minerals sometimes tint bones the color of late autumn. Iron and manganese can flow through sediment and leave browns, ochres, and deep grays that soften the starkness of bone against rock. The hues do not change the shape, but they change how the eye rests on it, as if the skeleton wears a shawl of weathered leaves. The stone becomes a gentle gallery rather than a laboratory shelf. If we lean toward sound, the record remains indirect but still generous. Hollow crests and long nasal passages often act like built-in resonators. Their geometry hints that low moans, booming calls, or breathy hisses could carry over distance with little strain. Beaks can clap, throats can drum softly against air sacs, and chests can push slow waves of sound into the ground itself. We do not play recordings, yet the shapes invite us to imagine tones that roll like fog. Ears set their own expectations. In several lineages, inner ear structures suggest sensitivity to low frequencies, the kind that travel far and bend around obstacles. A herd may have moved together by staying inside a shared hum, a bass line that says, "We are here," without forcing any one voice to shout. Across flats of wet clay, the message would feel more than sound, like a calm thunder far away. Plants stand as steady witnesses, and their pollen and spores often lie alongside tracks and bones. Under a lens, these grains reveal which ferns and conifers dominated when flowering shrubs spread, and how wet or dry the region grew over time. A handful of dust becomes a garden plan, a gentle map of shade and sun in an age no one can visit. We tuck the map into the same chapter as the footprints and feel the scene fill out. On rare days, soft tissues leave their own outlines. Skin can press into mud and keep the patterns of scales in fine relief. Muscles can leave shallow channels where they lay against bone. Blood vessels can trace a branching path that looks like a network of streams on a hillside. Even if the tissue itself is gone, its geometry holds on long enough for minerals to copy it. What remains is not a ghost, but a careful blueprint. Take a slow breath in and let it settle. Watch in your mind how dust sinks in a warm beam of light, each speck choosing its place. The day's noise falls the same way, grain by grain, until only the gentle details remain. Caves become libraries when water brings bones into their cool rooms. Karst tunnels collect remains washed in by storms or carried by streams, then hold them away from heat and sun. Layer by layer, sediment buries and guards them, a sedimentary filing system where teeth, claws, and vertebrae rest near the records of bats and bears from much later years. The catalog grows without hurry. Volcanic ash writes with a very sharp pencil. When fine ash settles quickly, it can capture prints, leaf edges, and even the tiny corrugations of insect wings with extraordinary clarity. The blanket is thin but complete, tucking everything in at once and keeping the scene from being smudged by wind or water. What was a moment becomes a page of exactness. Sometimes two worlds share a single slab. A feather lies next to the impression of a flower, and the whole stone becomes a meeting between air and root, pollinator and bloom, branch and breeze. We do not know whether the two lived in the same hour, yet their closeness now reminds us that forests and flyers shape each other. Across long spans, they still seem to nod in recognition. Color and pattern continue to whisper through other clues as well. Skin impressions sometimes show rows of small, pebbly scales, and the spacing can hint at how light would scatter across a flank, making it look dappled in forest shade. In water-dwelling neighbors, dark backs and pale bellies, a pattern called counter-shading, likely softened silhouettes from above and below. When we picture them at dusk, the tones feel right without needing precise paint. Even the chemistry in bones and teeth can speak. Ratios of certain isotopes often shift with diet and water sources, suggesting whether an animal roamed inland or drank near the sea, whether it grazed on lush floodplains or nipped tougher upland shrubs. The signals are quiet but consistent, like the faint taste of a spring that tells you which valley it came from. We listen with patient instruments and careful comparisons, then set the information among tracks and pollen in the same steady narrative. Feathers return, this time as patterns of wear. Along the edges of some veins, abrasion lines show where air rubbed hardest, hinting at common flight paths and postures. In downy filaments, the fluff is intact where warmth matters, and worn where contact with nest rims or branches was frequent. Texture becomes a diary without dates. Eggshells add their own notes. Under magnification, the pores that let air pass into an embryo show different densities and shapes that often reflect nesting style. More pores can mean a covered nest where gas exchange needs a wide doorway. Fewer can point to open nests, watched from above by a sitting parent. The shell is thin, yet it holds a blueprint for care. Bone microstructure turns into a clock. Growth rings, cement lines, and vascular patterns indicate seasons of plenty and lean, sprinting youth and plateaued maturity. A wide ring is a rich year. A narrow ring is a harder one. A cluster of features near the edge might suggest a last stress. The clock does not tick aloud, but we can count it with calm eyes. Now take another breath, easy and full, and release it like a tide. Feel how your body grows heavier while your thoughts grow lighter. Sometimes the very pose of a fossil carries sound. A long tube in a crest, a broad chamber in a snout, or a deep sinus near the throat acts like a hint about what that body could send into the air. We imagine gentle booms across a lake at dawn, soft clatters of beak on beak during courtship, breathy growls that do not need to be fierce to be felt. The instruments vary, but the music of life rarely needs volume to be clear. Where bones gather in river bends, we meet the work of currents. Long pieces align with flow, small ones tumble into pockets, and heavier parts cling to point bars where water slows. The pattern helps us tell flood from drought, channel from backwater, accident from habit. A landscape writes in bone what rain already wrote in mud. Even fractures contain information. Healed breaks show that some animals lived long after injuries, their bones knitting in patterns of care and time. Unhealed breaks may pair with bite marks that arc and repeat in familiar ways, sketching encounters between hunter and prey without drama. The story remains a story of persistence more than violence. At last we return to silence, which is not empty at all. The layers of evidence, feathers trapped in amber, colors suggested by melanosomes, meals kept in coprolites, steps pressed into clay, soft tissues outlined in fine silt, bones sorted by cave and current, ash laying a thin sheet of precision, add up to a calm and steady account. It is not a trumpet of sensation, but a measured voice that speaks of patience, change, and the warm breath of living things. Let your eyes grow heavy. Imagine a flat stone cool under your palm, a dim light catching the faint weave of a feather, the round imprint of a seed, the curve of a small track turning left. You are safe here. The planet keeps its records without hurry, and while you sleep, the quiet pages hold their places, ready for us to read again when morning is gentle. We meet again at the edge of quiet, where breath slows and thoughts fold like wings. Inhale softly until the ribs widen, and exhale a little longer, letting the jaw unclench and the brow cool. If these gentle journeys help you unwind, a quiet like and a soft subscribe keep this nighttime path easy to return to. We start with a calm truth that feels like a hand on the shoulder. Birds are living dinosaurs, a warm and light branch that carries the story of feathered theropods into our mornings. Their bones are airy, their lungs move air in flowing currents, and their feathers are the same ancient fabric that once warmed small hunters beneath cycads and conifers. When we hear a whisper of wings outside the window, we are hearing the old world speak in the present tense. Feathers are not only for flight. Long before some lineages learned to ride the wind, feathers likely kept bodies warm and helped send quiet messages from one animal to another. A lifted crest, a flared tail, a pale bar on a wing can say, "Stay or come or I am strong," without raising the voice above a hush. In darkness, those signals soften, but they do not vanish. They settle into posture and breath and small motions that reflect comfort and ease. Sleep, too, has deep roots. Birds show cycles of deep rest and active dreaming, and studies suggest that eyes can move under closed lids while parts of the brain replay the day. They sometimes sleep with one half of the brain more awake than the other, keeping one eye slightly open when perched near the edge of a group. This half and half rest may have been helpful for their small dinosaur ancestors as well, who lived in a world of soft footfalls and sudden shadows. As we lie down and let one shoulder sink, we can borrow the same idea, allowing one part of the mind to keep a gentle watch while the rest loosens into warmth. Many birds tuck their heads under a wing to sleep, hiding the beak in a muff of down where warmth gathers. Fossils of small feathered dinosaurs sometimes show a similar curled pose, knees folded, tail wrapped, head tucked, as if the night air felt cooler and the safest place was within one's own feathers. The pose is not drama, it is ordinary comfort. If you wish, imagine your own breath as a soft wing folding over the chest, steady and kind. Night reorders the world and birds adjust with quiet wisdom. Those that hunt by day lower their activity, seek roosts out of the wind, and let muscles release along branches or ledges. Those that thrive after dusk open their eyes, widen the pupils, and listen for the quiet rustle of insects. Our human rooms echo the same pattern without effort. Lamps dim, the hum of the house becomes a low background, and our senses shift toward the slower changes in the air. Feathers renew themselves in cool rhythms. Molt is the gentle replacement of old barbs with new, a process that can follow seasons or food. During this time, flight feathers often change in planned order, keeping balance and lift. Down grows close to the skin, holding warm pockets of air like small quilts. The idea is simple: steady replacement, not sudden change. As you notice the breath in and the breath out, you are practicing the same patient maintenance with mind and body. Warmth moves in small currents across a feathered body. Air sacs guide breath in a loop through the lungs, making oxygen exchange steady and efficient. On the surface, feathers either trap heat or let it go, depending on how they are fluffed and aligned. On still nights, birds can fluff and seal themselves. On warm nights, they can open small gaps and let heat rise away. We can do the same with blankets and posture, choosing comfort that meets the room without effort. If you like, let your next exhale feel like a slow opening of feathers, heat drifting off the shoulders. Parents and young make a night music of their own. In ground nests, a brooding adult may spread belly feathers to press warmth directly on eggs, letting heat flow where it matters most. In tree nests, partners may change places, one guarding while the other feeds. Chicks fall asleep beneath a tent of wings, and their tiny breaths add to the gentle warmth of the group. Life carries forward without fanfare, and sleep is part of the work. Migration is a long thread that stitches nights together. Many birds travel under the stars, using cool air and calmer winds to cross wide water and empty land. Their eyes pick up faint glows on the horizon. Their inner senses notice the pull of the planet and the pattern of familiar constellations. Between flocks and single travelers, the sky becomes a wide, slow road. We turn a pillow and find the cool side. They find a river's silver curve, a coastline's soft arc, and keep to their line. Distance is not rushed, it is breathed. Color and pattern quiet down in darkness. Daylight reveals bright shoulder patches and crisp bars. Night smooths them into simple shapes. Yet a dark back can hide a sleeper against bark, and a pale belly can blend with weak reflections from water. Even sleeping bodies speak the language of place. Our own room has its shapes and shadows as well. A curtain line, a shelf edge, a familiar chair. As your eyes grow drowsy, let those shapes blur into one soft field. The sense of hearing holds more of the world at night. Deep calls travel farther in cool air, and soft contact notes pass among roosting birds like a shared heartbeat. Some species can lower the voice until it is felt more than heard, a murmur that says, "I am here." In our room, the hum of a vent, the distant rumble of a car, or the faint tick of a pipe becomes the same kind of reassurance. You can let it in without listening hard. It asks nothing of you. Perches are chosen with care. A branch thicker than the foot feels safe. A hidden niche away from prevailing wind keeps heat. Feet can lock around a perch as tendons tighten naturally when the ankle bends. A quiet mechanism that prevents slipping even when sleep is deep. There is a kindness in such design. When we find the right pillow and the right angle for the neck, we are doing the same work, building a perch from cotton and habit. Predators, too, have their nighttime ease. Owls turn heads in near silence, flight feathers shaped to cut noise to a hush. They listen for tiny movements and glide like shadows across fields. Even these skilled hunters spend much of the dark in stillness, conserving energy, watching, waiting. The night is not a stage for constant action. It is a room for measured choices. Your own stillness fits here. Weather writes its own lullaby. In a light rain, feathers bead water and direct it away, while a layer of down remains dry and warm. In a cold wind, bodies turn broadsides away and point beaks into the flow, narrowing the profile and keeping warmth. In a soft fog, droplets cling to tips and edges, and birds shake them off with a quick ripple before rest. We, too, can turn slightly toward comfort, pull the blanket to the shoulder, tuck a hand under the cheek, allow the spine to lengthen. Memory rolls through sleep like a slow tide. Birds can learn routes, songs, and safe places, and evidence suggests that night consolidates what daylight began. A simple note becomes smoother by dawn. A path becomes clearer after rest. Our minds do the same. The day's small puzzles sort themselves into easier shapes while we do nothing at all. Trust is enough. In the deep past, small feathered dinosaurs may have shared many of these habits. Warmth gathered beneath plumage, heads tucked near shoulders, bodies curled with tails wrapped along the flank. They likely chose sheltered spots from the wind, perhaps beneath low branches or beside the base of a trunk. The line from them to the robin and the wren bends gently through time, not with a snap, but with a series of quiet decisions. Feathers are also light keepers. Even at night, they can control how air flows around the body, reducing drafts, touching muscles with a steady, even pressure that nerves often read as calm. Weighted blankets work in a similar way for some people, offering a constant, low signal of safety. If you want, imagine a cloak of soft, warm feathers over your shoulders and chest, heavy enough to quiet, light enough to breathe. Hunger softens after dusk for many species. Activity drops and bodies use stored energy at a slow rate. The night is a safe vault for calories and warmth, a time when growth and repair often take the front seat. Inside bones and muscles, tiny teams shift from action to maintenance, knitting micro tears and balancing chemistry. No deadlines, no rush, just steady work in low light. Your body knows this routine well. It has done it every night of your life. When dawn waits beneath the horizon, a hush spreads through the roost. The first to stir may be a bird near the edge, sensing the graying sky and adjusting feathers. Others follow in a wave so subtle it would be easy to miss. Breath, posture, and heartbeat change by small degrees until wakefulness finds the group. For us, morning will arrive the same way, with light at the curtain and a thought rising into focus. There is no need to meet it early. Now let the breath count itself. Inhale for a quiet 4, exhale for a gentle 6. Shoulders melt downward, hips settle, hands grow warm and loose. The room becomes a nest shaped exactly for you. If a thought hops to the edge, Let it preen its feathers and then tuck its head back under its wing. Outside, some bird likely stands on one foot, the other tucked into the belly's warmth, eye half closed. Somewhere in stone, a small skeleton rests in a curled pose that looks like sleep, and the rock around it keeps the cool of night forever. Between the living branch and the old layer of silt, the story hums with the same note. Warmth gathered, breath steady, danger small and far. You are safe. Night covers the world in feathers of quiet, and the old world keeps telling its patient tale without asking for anything in return. Let that tale be a lullaby, each line a soft feather, each pause a calm heartbeat of the earth. As you drift, the last stitch pulls snug, the present threaded to the past, the wing to the air, the pillow to your cheek. Sleep comes the way a bird settles, with one small shift, then another, and then stillness that feels like being held.